But we just try to push it. Now I'm at that point now. It's fish smarter, not harder.
Hello and welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show. My name is Rich Natoli, your regular host, and tonight I am going to be joined by George Bucci, and we're going to be talking about how to break down a new area that you're going to. It's 'tis the season. Everyone's going to be traveling around for summer, going places with family and friends. Some places you don't even want to go, but you may be able to find some good fishing there. So we're going to go into that. This is going to be one of those episodes because of the time of year. What I've learned over the years is most of you are going to be listening on the podcast as opposed to watching it on the live stream. And that's great because this is a good topic for that. Something to kick back and listen to on the way to your next destination. Before we jump into that topic, going to go through the sponsors. So we have Great Bay Outfitters. I have to say, anything kayak related, Radio Road in Tuckerton. I was actually there. I was on vacation in Brigantine, New Jersey, and we wanted a second kayak. So I went up there. Paul set me up with a native LTE. The thing is awesome. So I had my wife out there. My son went out fishing with me. Hooked into, we had the regular flounder fishing and everything. Those stupid cow nose rays. Got one of those damn things. But yeah, the thing handled awesome. And so I got the indication that my wife and my son would both like me to get another kayak. So maybe we'll be heading back down there soon to pick up one of those from Paul. If you need anything, go by and check them out. Great Bay Outfitters. Then we have Quad State Tune. So if you have a Toyota truck, you're looking for a little bit better performance out of it. We talked before about how they gear hunt. So you're driving down the highway and it starts shifting gears for no particular reason. Well, it's a great truck, but it can be a little annoying, and it can have an impact on the gas mileage and the torque and all that good stuff. Well, this tune will take care of it. Make sure you check out Quad State. The other thing I do want to mention, if you're towing a boat with your Toyota, this is definitely going to help you out. So check them out. And then the last one is me as a real estate agent in southeastern Pennsylvania. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, give me a call. Check out my website, richardnatoli.com. And with all that said, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to bring George Bucci on stage. George, it's good to see you back again.
How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing well. Let's just recognize everybody in there. We got Stephen Duda. James Flynn was first into Great Bay Outfitters in there. Qua is in there. Joe Billups. Let's see. Frank Mock. He says that we're good. All right. So I'm going to do my best to monitor the comments on a different screen, which unfortunately means that I'm going to have a glare off of my glasses now, but it is what it is. So anyway, so let's roll into this. So we're talking, like I said, 'tis the season for traveling. We're going places with the family. Some of us are going places we don't want to go. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to name the person because I know that this person's wife also watches this stream, was telling me last year, gave me a call before he went on vacation, said, Rich, I'm going this place I don't want to go. The fishing's going to suck. And well, why are you going? I'm like, what's wrong with you? And he said, because my wife said we're going and she's really excited. This is going to suck. I'm dreading. And it was a 2-week vacation. I said, all right, well, you got to do something about it. Great results when he came back. I mean, I was getting texts. I was like, oh my God, this is working out for you. This is great. I'm just sitting there on a sofa reading these texts, and I'm getting picture after picture after picture. And part of it, I think, comes down to the prep and preparing and how to do it the right way, because
Sure.
you can really kill your trip before you go. And he almost killed his. So
Yeah.
Why don't we jump into that? What's your first thought about, traveling to go to a new place that you've never fished before and being ready to be productive?
When I want to do a trip, it's like the feeling that I get is, if you remember, like when you were 17 and you got your driver's license, okay, and you took your first drive, whether it was just around the neighborhood or a bit of a distance, that feeling you get of like independence, and like it's like a whole new world is opened up to you, and that's the feeling I get every time that I go somewhere. It's like, you're seeing it for the first time. It's just like being, getting that driver's license. You get to go. You're just by yourself and you go. So that's what I love about it. Anytime I go somewhere different, to fish. But I always do a lot of homework before I plan a trip, before I go. And usually when I go somewhere, if I really like it, it usually becomes an annual thing. You let one place go and you grab
Yeah.
onto another place. So that's kind of how I've been doing it probably for the last 20 years, 20 something years.
Yeah. We did. I grew up and I just fished Stone Harbor. That's where the house was, the family house. That's where the boat was. And, quite frankly, first of all, I'm absolutely, to this day, I'm absolutely in love with Stone Harbor. It is what I consider my place, right? That's where I want to be. I don't go anymore. I can't afford it. Not too many people can afford it.
No,
But the other thing was, my dad was a cop, bringing a family, of six down. So we're not going too many other places when you got a free house at the
yeah,
grandparents' house and a boat and, the whole family there. Um, but my wife and I have started trying to go to different places. Part of it is that we're trying to figure out where, if we move to the coast, are we going to go. So we're going somewhere new every year, a different town in a different state.
yeah,
And I got to tell you, George, I seem to do better when I don't fish Stone Harbor, which I love,
yeah,
but I go somewhere new because I think I just approach it differently. I
sure.
mean, my
Yeah,
best year ever on a kayak was a year where I determined I was not going to fish the same spots or areas twice until the end of August because I figured I'd run out. And that's
yeah.
exactly what happened.
Wow. Yeah,
Yes,
that's great.
it was the approach. But what's all right? So let's say I say to you, all right, George, you're going to, well, have you ever fished Ocean City, Maryland?
No, I have not. I
Okay.
have fished Maryland, different parts of Maryland. The way I approach it is, what species do I, mainly want to go after? Okay, just saying striped bass. Right? I love catching striped bass, so I want to go. I want to follow that migration.
Yep.
And there's spots in the winter where these fish winter. They're getting ready to spawn, and you can go down to Maryland, right? So
Yep.
you do your homework on going down to Maryland, but mainly, it's the summertime going. That's you're fishing in 38-degree water,
Yes.
standing in 38-degree water. So you go more the summertime thing going north. You have your Montauks, uh, all of Rhode Island, Connecticut. You know, I just got back from Cutty Hunk, which is my new favorite place in the whole world. You're detached. But what I want to do is before I plan one of these trips, I do a lot of there's striped bass. It's basically the same thing as your home waters as there. They're going to eat the same stuff. So you're going to pack probably the same way, depending on what kind of area you're going to fish. There's boulder fields up there.
Yep.
So what I'll do is I'll look at an area that I want to fish. I'll do a lot of my homework. Like, okay, if I'm going to go up here, where am I going to stay? What's the parking like? Even right down to where's the grocery store? Everything. I look at
Right.
everything before I do it. Uh, and then overpack with your gear before you go. Always overpack with the gear.
Right. Especially for the first year. And it's good that you look for the grocery stores because otherwise Cuddy Hunk would have sucked. You would have been pretty hungry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to bring everything. You bring everything in, and then usually, you'll leave whatever for the guys that come in behind you. Which is we got lucky. We had more food than we knew what to do with this year. Uh, but even like Montauk, it's not the same that it used to be. The Montauk that I used to go to, it's priced out. It's gotten the rich have taken it over.
Yeah.
But even when we used to go up there, they were suicide trips. Okay, the bites on, get in the truck, my buddy's truck, and there's two. You get to Montauk, there's two lots. There's a lower lot and there's an upper lot, and all
Right.
the fishermen stay in the lower lot. And
Yeah.
we slept in the back of a pickup truck, which I've done plenty of times. Just slept in a truck.
You can't do that now, right?
I haven't been there in years. I
Oh,
don't know. I don't know if you
I
can.
heard that you can't do that anymore. Well, I don't know if it's true, but I remember somebody saying that they got in trouble for doing that and they
Wow.
had to leave,
Oh
which
wow.
I
That
guess
was
somebody complained.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't done it in years. I've got, it kind of wasn't the same. So, and plus you do it a few times and then you go, okay, I'm ready for somewhere different.
Right.
It's like going to the Cape Cod Canal. You do it a few times and it's great. But you want to go somewhere different. So that's what now I'm on the Cuddy Home kick.
So those are two places I've never gone. I've never been to Montauk. I always wanted to go to Montauk for the shark fishing, and not so much the striped bass, but the shark fishing and the Cape Cod Canal. I you
The,
know I
the
guess
mate.
I got there too late to that. Where I was like, well, maybe I'll go, and then it was just all fighting for spots and everything. I was like, I just
Yeah.
don't have interest in that.
Yeah, it can get kind of, it's
Full
combat.
contact.
It can be, yeah, it's a combat sport, yeah, up there. But it's still, it's one of the few places that you can go to with a group of guys. Well, usually we'd have like 7 or 10 guys. We
Yeah.
stay in the cabin, you're basically you're riding your bike. There's no reason to drive anywhere. You're riding your bike up and down the canal, and it's the only one of the few places you can go, and you can stand alongside of your buddies in a pair of baggies and sneakers and
Right.
sit there and laugh and catch fish, and just take a break and have a conversation. It's not real physical. It's not physically demanding like a lot of other places.
All right.
So
Maybe I will go.
it's more of a social event. When I go to the
Yeah.
canal, it's more of a social event with fishing thrown in. Where everywhere else it's fishing with the social aspect thrown in. It
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
they kind of flip it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, when we went down for the redfish, I really I think I love that trip, even though
Oh,
it
that's
didn't
right.
turn out the way we wanted. But my favorite part was before the charter started, when we went and we hit that point.
We just kind of
And
winged it. Yeah.
we were just all walking around and watching
Yeah.
you catch all the fish and wondering what we needed to do to try to join the
We
action.
all
And
we all did fine. Yeah, that was fun though. We winged it. We just went. We picked a spot on a map. We
yeah,
went. You had to pay to get in there, which was cool. It was a little park, and what we caught specks. We caught puppy drum, stripers. All
yeah.
like stuff.
And for anyone, I do have to say, yes, we all caught fish, but George put on a freaking clinic. It was one of the it was one of those things where it was almost like you had this glow coming off of you in the middle of us. And I was like, what is he throwing? You're throwing a frog or something. You're throwing chatterbait. You're just like,
Or
you're
chatterbait.
reeling your 10th fish while everyone else is pulling in their second. And then you're just like walking away. I'm like, what is he doing now? And then you come back with something. I wasn't real close to you. And I walk down and I just hear, he put a friggin' chatterbait on. Watch, he's going to catch it. Bang, red. I'm like,
Yeah,
what is happening right now?
that was
Oh man,
fun.
that was a lot of fun though, and it
Yeah,
was
that's great. That made the whole trip. It didn't matter what happened the next day. Didn't matter to me.
yeah,
It would have been nice to get some of the bigger reds, but it didn't matter at that point. I had had so much fun that day that I was already happy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
and we all had overpacked for the big reds,
sure. Yep.
and you had freshwater gear with you, so you, as you said, you overpacked,
Hmm.
um,
I had all kinds of.
and I underpacked for that because I tried to be really responsible, and I was so disappointed that I didn't have options available when we were fishing off of those rocks. So I did okay. I got trout, and I think all I caught were trout. Uh, I don't think I got a red that. I don't know if I got a red. But you had like the full pack of stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, I brought a lot of. I always
you were
do. I
prepared.
always have a pack. It's just I just never know what I'm going to need. You
Yeah,
know, uh, and I don't want to get caught without it. Because
right.
the last thing you want when you go away, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll look and see where the closest bait and tackle shops are going to be. So if I need something, I can run there. Not only are
Right.
you going to be able to get what you need, you're going to get the information you may need. A
Yes.
lot of the places they're a lot more giving when you're in the store buying something and telling you the information that might help you catch.
Yes,
So,
and we were fortunate. We had a local with us who
mhm.
said, "Yeah, these are some of the spots." And we didn't just go off to the park and go fishing. Like we actually talked about it. All of
Yeah,
us got together. I guess it was the night before, and
yeah,
we were looking at the maps on our phones, and we were saying, based on, and this is where I want to get to. You had said in the summer you go north, and then sometimes you go south, depending on
mhm,
where you want to get the species. You have to adjust, right?
yeah,
Like it's not that there are more, necessarily just that there are more striped bass, for example, in this area or this state as compared to another one at a particular time, but they're also feeding in a different environment. So it may be that you need to adjust and go back to your tactics for striped bass from 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
If you're heading north, because because that's the water temperature there. It could be a month, a month off.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of times when you go to a different area, you gotta kind of lean back on some of the things that you do know from your home areas. Like, you see that there's a large, where we were fishing was basically, it was a point, and there was a large estuary in the back. And when I walked up on that, I saw a very definitive tide line there.
Yeah.
And at the time I had my Navionics, and you could pull it up, and I could see where the deep water was. And I was like, oh, it comes right here. It comes right
And the
across the.
structure there too. You could see it underneath the water.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it all comes together, and you're kind of using every tool that you have in your bag to try to, figure it out. We went to the front side at first, and I was like, this is too shallow.
Yeah.
I said, let me try over here, and walked over to those rocks. And that was it. We all ended up there, it was perfect.
Yeah. That was one of the best days fishing I ever had. Not just for total fish. I wouldn't say it was anywhere close for total fish, but just
It's
the amount of
very
fun that it
rewarding.
was.
It's rewarding, when you do a little
Yeah.
bit of work and you paid off with that, some fish.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it. Like nobody was fishing lazy. Everyone was actually, every cast, people were focused. And it was like, okay, I could see this little rip line. So
Hmm.
there's something submerged. So I'm going to toss it here. And
Yeah,
it was a little tough for some people with the rods that were brought for the larger fish trying to throw the light baits. Um, but they were adjusting in closer, and they were like, okay, well, I'll come this rip I can reach. And I think that's a big part of it, where you can be more productive because you don't just take things for granted. You don't just say, well, I caught something here last time, I'm going to fish it the same way. You
yeah,
approach it with those fresh eyes, and you look at it and you say, well, okay, well, where's the best spot? I've never tossed anything here. Where's the best spot if I want to catch something? And then you get the stress of, are you actually going to hook anything?
yeah, yeah. But when you do, it's the reward. You're like, yeah, I put it together. This is great, And then once it keeps rolling, you start getting more and more fish. And I wanted to go back there. I
Yeah,
was able to go back there specifically to fish that spot, just so I could see if, did we get lucky, or is that really, does it really hold fish like it did that day?
I think it
There
holds
was nothing,
fish.
there was nothing big, but you know, it was very good. It was consistent. And,
Yeah,
there was a wide variety of fish. The specks, stripers, drum, all standing on the same rock. That's fantastic.
bluefish. The
Yeah.
bluefish were on that dock. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
the
Yeah.
bluefish. I started catching them. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I
Down.
keep looking over.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone else was doing better on the good fish.
Yeah. And even when I go north, I mean, it's for me, it's wetsuits, two wetsuits. I got a light wetsuit, I got a heavy wetsuit, I got a pair of waders in case I don't want to be in a wetsuit, two dry tops, a heavy one, a light one, because you don't know what kind of weather you're going to get. You go up there, it could, when we got to Cutty Hunk, it was freezing. It's the end of June,
Right.
and it was freezing. It was, long pants, and I didn't even have long pants, but thank God I brought a couple hoodies. And then 2 days later, you were sweating your ass off. I was like, "What is going on here?" It's the temperature
No,
swing, amazing.
that's Cutty Hunk. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the location lends to that craziness. Now, how did you adjust your tactics? So when you went up there, so let's say you're going next year. How are you approaching it differently than you did
Well,
this
I'm
year?
already planning next year's trip, because you got to book well in advance, because you like, for that, you're bringing all your own food in. There's no stores there. Uh, you're packing your gear. You have to rent your place. You take a ferry over. It's about an hour ferry ride. You're paying to get all your gear on the ferry, your rods. I went with 5 rods and 5 reels, and I used one the whole
Yeah.
time. Uh,
Right.
that's what if I needed this one? Or what if I needed that one? But once I got dialed in with one rod, I was like, I'm not touching any other rods. And then I think I probably brought 60 plugs,
Yeah.
uh, about probably another 20 jigs, bucktails, sluggos, and everything. I think I used 3 plugs the whole time. That was
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Like 3 plugs. Maybe a couple times different colors of those same plugs just to see
Yeah.
if one color was better than the other. But once you got dialed in, it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It
Right.
was working, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And the great thing about that is you're on an island, so you can go. Okay, say the wind came up hard out of the southwest, and it's too much, which it's rarely too much. But if you wanted to get out of the wind, you can just go to the other side of the island. So
Right.
there's always a wind at your back somewhere on that island if you want it,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
As long as you're prepared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was glad that I brought the heavy wetsuit. I was told not to, and thank God I did. I think I might have, uh, the 2.3 wouldn't have been enough. I had the 5.4,
Yeah.
and it's great going, because it's people from all over the place. You get guys from New York and guys from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and you talk to them, and these are guys that are there all the time. And I love sitting down and listening to their stories and how they like to approach things, and it'll change the way I fish it next year.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So same species, the same things work, but
Mhm.
we fish it differently. We sometimes use different gear, different tactics. Just one state away, and when you're 2 or 3 states away, it can be totally different. I mean, Sheep's Head is a good example. They weren't using the bottom sweepers until a few years ago. They had
Yeah,
never heard of them.
yeah, yeah.
Did you pick up any interesting? I'm not asking you to share it all, but did you pick up anything like that?
Well, one thing I've noticed over the years is, for some reason, once you get north of like LBI, this is just a New Jersey regional thing. It seems to me that the guys in North Jersey fish faster. And when I say
Yeah.
fish faster, they like to retrieve quick, where you get down here in South Jersey, where it's like, how slow can you go? You
Right.
know, I want to crawl it, and then I'll adjust from there. I'll go from as slow as I can to maybe speeding up my tempo. Up there, they kind of do it the other way around. Everything's fast.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Did you
yeah.
notice a difference in the results?
Uh, yeah, and I don't want to offend anybody, but
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're not going to tell us which one
And
worked
well, a
better?
lot of times, like, if they come down to fish with me down here, I got to tell them, you got to slow down. You're
Yeah.
going too quick. For me, for bigger fish, they're lazy. They like it slow. I mean, I think my best day this spring, I was fishing with a buddy. There was actually 3 of us, and we were fishing together. I was in a wetsuit, and I was pushed out a little bit, and I was throwing a super strike darter. And my other buddy, he was in waders. I think he was in waders. He might have been in a wetsuit, but he wasn't pushed out as far. But he was back to my left. I was kind of on a little point, and then another buddy was on my right. I was throwing this super strike darter, and I'd get the line tight, and I wasn't, and then as soon as it got tight, I wasn't even reeling it. I was just wiggling the rod tip, just wiggling it. And
Yeah.
I know that it wasn't swimming. I
Right.
know it was, and it was getting hit every time I did it. And these were all 40 to 50 inch fish. They were
Yeah.
all
'Cause
big.
they don't want to chase anything. Easy meal.
No, they were just, my buddy on my left, CJ, he was getting fish. Uh, but my other buddy, and I'm not going to name him because he's listening right now. Uh, he was on my right. All he did was snag a couple horseshoe crabs and caught a sand shark.
Oh,
But
oh, that hurts.
when you try to tell somebody to fish slow, like you see them fishing and you go, no, slower, and
Yeah.
no, you can't fish it slower. That doesn't make sense. And I'm like, yes, you're not even swimming that block. You're not.
Right.
It's no way it's swimming. And I've had that encounter multiple times where I'm just basically it's swinging with the tide and I'm just shaking the rod tip, whether it looks like it's a wounded, bunker or some other type of bait fish, which is probably the
Yeah.
case. But they absolutely hammer it.
So I had a similar type of experience. So go further south. So I was fishing for the first time in the backwaters behind Oregon Inlet in North Carolina. So the Outer Banks. And I went out with the guy, Wyatt. And Wyatt, he knew the area, or at least he was more familiar with the area. He fished there a lot. So he's from North Carolina. And we were fishing and he was just nailing the specs. I was like, what is going on? It's been like 2 hours. We are literally in kayaks within 3 feet of each other. We had beached the back of the kayaks. So the front was in about 3 feet of water. The back is beached. So we're like essentially anchored
Yeah.
right next to each other, George. literally hitting the same baits, same everything. I'm not getting anything, and I'm going slow. And I just turned on and like, why? What the hell is wrong with me? He says, "Do you really want to know?" I was like, "That's why I'm asking, and I'm wondering why you didn't tell me if you know." And he's like, "Well, I didn't know if you get offended or not." He's like, "You need to slow down."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm going real slow," and I was going like South
Oh,
Jersey slow.
painfully
He was
slow.
going like glacier. Yeah,
Slow.
I think he was only bringing in the slack and letting the current. And as soon as I did that, I was nailing everything. And we
Yeah.
ended up just bailing these trout out of, these specks.
Yeah.
They were only like 20 feet in front of us.
Yeah.
We're just fishing a rip from the where a sound was emptying out to the main channel towards Oregon Inlet. And it's the exact same thing though. I thought I was going slow.
We
And I
fish it, sir. It's the same thing, man. I
yeah,
mean, I am crawling it, and it's really difficult because sometimes you might be next to somebody that's doing that, and they tell you to go slow, and maybe you sit there and you look at them, and you're matching their speed. You're reeling the same speed. You're like,
yeah,
I'm matching him. I'm matching him, and he's still catching fish. Well, you may have a different reel, and it may be
yes.
a different gear ratio. So you have to know what's in your hand. You know, it looks like you're matching the speed. Your turnover rate is the same speed, but it's not the same retrieve rate. So
Right.
you
Or
have to know
he could
what
have hit
it
the rip. He could have hit an eddy and I didn't. So I got a faster current. There are a lot of things that can change that, but I think
is.
that's a big thing. Like you have to adjust and you have to be open to the adjustments and really, really aware. Cause you can be sure I was staring at Wyatt the whole time. Like, what the hell is he doing that I'm not doing? Like it's literally George, we literally had everything the same except for the rod and the reel. We even
Yeah.
had the same pound test, the same length leader. Everything was identical. We were sharing the Z-mans.
When I do it to people, when I do it to other people, I feel the frustration coming from
Yeah,
them. They'll say, no, it's the rod and reel, or we may have the same lure on.
yeah.
And I go, I hate to do this to you.
It's
I
not.
hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. Give me a rod. And they give me the rod, and then instantly I'll catch. And then they,
Mhm.
they want to go home. At that point, they just go, oh, I want to go home. Get
Yeah.
out.
See, I'm the opposite. I don't have too much pride when it comes to fishing. Like I know that there are things that I don't know. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of things. And I know that there are people that are better. And I know that at any given time, somebody can be better than anybody else.
Yeah.
But just tell me. If you see something, just tell me. And then leave it up to me to decide whether I want to try it or not.
Yeah.
And but I
Everybody's
get real nervous. Most people aren't like that.
Yeah, everybody's been humbled. It's frustrating. It can be
Yeah.
frustrating. It used to bother me, and it used to make me angry.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't bother me anymore.
Oh yeah. Back in the day, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, when I'm fishing. It seems like the guys I fish with are getting younger and younger every year, and I just try to keep pace. But
Yeah.
they're outcasting me. They have more stamina than me. So but I just enjoy seeing some like the guy I've been fishing with a lot, CJ Angerman. He's a young dude. He can bomb. He's a big boy. He can bomb. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of times where if the fish are out of my range, they're still in his range, and that
Yeah.
can be frustrating. But I just got to see him catch probably the biggest bass I've ever laid eyes on this year. Every bit of over 50 pounds, well over 50 pounds. It was
Yeah.
giant. And I don't see him get rattled, but when he brought that onto the beach, and I heard him call my name, I knew something was up. So I went in and
Yeah.
and it was like knee knocking large. It was yeah. And I was
That's amazing.
genuinely, I would have been, I'm a jealous dude. I would have been like, I've been fishing a long time, a lot longer than him. Now he's got a bigger bass than I've ever caught, from land, at least
Yeah.
from land. And, but I was genuinely happy for him, and it was
It's
cool.
amazing how things changed. Yeah. I can be
Sure. Yeah.
happy for people now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In the past, I wasn't always happy. I was always like, damn it,
No,
what this should have been me.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I put more time in, but and that's fishing,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, so I don't know him, but I do see his posts and it's clearly he knows what he's doing.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very good. He's a very quick learner. And once he dials in on something or focuses on something, man, he really goes after it. And he usually doesn't stop until he's got it mastered.
Good for him. I used to do that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Now
I run
I'm
out of
an
the
old
energy.
dog, and you can't. It's really tough to teach an old dog new tricks.
It is. It is. I have to force myself, like these new, and again, bring it back to the topic. That's like I should have done this. I should have just said this year I'm going all over the place again because I find myself falling back into the same old habits, the
Yep.
old spots. It were,
Mhm.
this tide. It's like
I do it.
I missed the year. Like I had never fished Shark River until a few years
Oh,
ago, and then I was like, well, I better go to Shark River because I'm running out of places.
yeah,
Wow, did I do good? Point Pleasant Canal, never fished it. Now, I didn't go in it with the kayak, but I
yeah,
did get real close to
yeah.
I did get close to it and did well. And I think it's because I couldn't fall back on those old habits,
Yeah,
because it wouldn't work.
I've probably forgotten more places than I actually know at this point. That I
Yeah.
used to fish. I mean, just thinking about it right now, you mentioned in a couple spots, I was like, oh man, I used to fish this spot and that spot near there,
Yeah.
and I haven't even given it thought. You know, It's which is but I mean, as far as the traveling thing, it's probably my favorite way to fish now, and to do it with friends and people that I enjoy to be with now at this point. It's for me, it's I love catching the fish, but it's not always all about the fish. Like Cuddy Hunt is not about the fish. Sure, I love going there and catching fish, but it's not about the fish completely. you
Right.
know it's just the environment. And even when you, like you said, you've never been to Montauk, and I suggest you go. When you pull into Montauk, it's kind of like you're like, for me, it was like overwhelmed with the history, the fishing history of that
Yep.
town. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Walking into some of the establishments there, you can just feel the rich history of it. They say Montauk's got a saying. It's what do they say? It's a fishing town with a, oh, no, it's a drinking town with a fishing problem. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's a
about
drinking
right.
town with a fishing problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I literally grew up just I read all the books on Montauk and Montauk fishing. I mean, everything about Montauk I read. I used to cut out the articles from the magazines and put them on my wall, all about Montauk. Like, I'm going to go there someday. I'm 52. I think I'm
The,
52.
the first time
52.
I
Yeah.
went there, me and a buddy, we did it. We decided we were going to go. It was like the night before. Threw everything in this truck at 11 o'clock at night and just drove there. No place
Yeah.
to stay. Didn't know where what we were doing. I mean, it was back. We had paper maps. I was unfolding a paper
Right.
map on the drive there. We got
Yep.
lost in the Bronx. It was hard. We got there, and it was just about sunrise. We were in the parking lot. We were sitting in the truck, and we're just kind of decompressing before we decided to get out and look at it. But it wasn't quite light out yet, and all you could hear in the parking lot was corkers. And I said, all
Yep.
right, let's get our stuff together. We got our stuff together, and we walked out onto the bluff right there by the lighthouse, and it was just acres of blitzing fish.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, we got to get down there. And he ran down, and I just stood there. And he ran down, and literally he had a bucktail on, and he jumped up on a rock, and he didn't cast. He put it in the water and moved it and hooked the bass and flipped it up onto the rocks. And then he turned and looked at me and he said, "Are you going to come down?" I said, "Give me 10 more minutes, man. I want to just look at
Yeah.
it." You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something when you see it, in
uh,
person.
I mean, it was just, I mean, that trip, that experience will be blazed into my mind until I'm dead.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about those trips. It's you're going on an adventure. You never know what's going to happen, and it's a new place. That was brand new for us, the first time there. And every time I go somewhere, it seems like you always end up, you're taking a memory home with you. You take something that you'll never forget. And I mean, and I know guys that are very good fishermen down here in South Jersey, and I see them all the time, and they fish their asses off, and they won't leave South Jersey. They just don't know what they're missing. They don't
Yeah.
know what they're missing, not getting out of this, out of the state.
Yeah, I will leave. I'll
Yeah.
go anywhere. I'll go anywhere for something new. So you're exploring the more northern things, northern areas, and I'm
Mhm.
going to some of the lesser known southern ones, So for me, like I never fished the Chesapeake until a few years ago, and I absolutely love
It's amazing.
going
It's amazing.
down to the Chesapeake, where it doesn't have to be it could be the western shore, the eastern shore, north
Mhm.
up near Baltimore or north of that. up near the Susquehanna Flats, or it can be all the way down. Now, I haven't made it to Kip to Peak yet, which
It's
I definitely want to do.
it's huge.
Yeah, it's a whole for me. It's a whole different thing. Like I've
I
caught a
started
lot of fish, but I
I
haven't
started
caught them
that
everywhere.
maybe in the late '90s. Maybe I started take. I used to when I kayak fished. I would drag a kayak down there when you could fish the Susquehanna Flats in
Hmm.
April, and we would launch at Perry Park and Elks Neck Park. We would stay there, and it was amazing. We would have get-togethers, kayak get-together, and that was I think it was like when Hobie first came out with the pedal drives.
Yeah, yeah. Back then, yeah,
Yeah,
that's about that time.
it was fantastic. And then I kind of got away from it for a while. I go down every year, and I actually ran into. I was staying in a campsite, and Al McReynolds was at our campsite telling us the story
Oh, really?
about the night that he got to bed, and it was an amazing story. He was an amazing dude. He had a bottle of rum in one hand and a bottle of vodka in the other hand, and was just I was on the jetty. I hooked that fish. I got washed off, and I was like, and he said, and I'll be back at 6 in the morning. And this was like 2 in the morning. I said, he's never going to be back. At 6 o'clock in the morning, he was shaking my tent to go. I was like, there's no way, and he
Wow.
was ready to go. Yeah, yeah, he was a cool dude.
It's funny you mentioned him because I was in when I was in Brigantine. We went during a rainstorm. My wife and I jumped into the little museum there, and they had the mount of his fish. And my wife just looked at me. She's like, "That can't be a real striper." I was like, "That's the world record." I was like,
Yeah,
"Caught right down in AC." She's like, "You got to be kidding me." She's like, "That's what you fish for?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what we want. We all
that's the
want
holy
that,
grail.
but
Yeah, that's the holy
that's
grail.
not what I'm actually. It's not what
Yeah,
I'm actually fishing for. I'm fishing for much smaller."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That thing is massive though, and the story. I remember reading all those stories where people immediately were saying it wasn't true, and I was like, I don't see why this wouldn't be true. Like, to me, the whole story was believable. I mean, it's the way that people fished.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think anytime a fish like that is caught, somebody's going to throw shade to it,
yeah,
uh, out of jealousy or for whatever reason. So, do I choose to believe it, and that's all there is to it. So, whether it's true or not, I choose to believe it. So,
yeah. I tend to believe people until they give me a reason not to.
yeah,
And everything I've ever heard is there's really no reason. I mean, the guy can tell a story, but I've never heard that anyone could disprove any of his.
well, it's a different fishery back then too, and there was.
Yeah,
It was pretty common for fish at that time of year in September during the mullet run. We used to have an actual fall run, which we haven't seen in quite some time, like a September run of big bass like that. Those times are gone.
yeah. I remember just even recently, it was like, all right, it's I shouldn't say recently, but it was okay. It's October. It's getting close, and
Mhm.
It's going to start on Mischief Night. Was it what everyone was saying? Mischief
Yeah,
Night is when we hope it'll start. Now you kind of hope it starts by the end of by Thanksgiving.
I have it pretty. The last 3 years have been pretty consistent with a schedule, and I'll start with the furthest regions I can go in North Jersey, and I'll start the third week of October.
Yeah,
Uh, that's usually when those bigger fish are hitting like North Jersey, the Sandy Hook area. It's somewhere around in that third week of October. They're there. Could
they
be
used
give or
they used
take.
to be down in the rips like in September.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, many times out in the rips and around Halloween and
Yeah,
in November. Now, I mean, the rips. You can go out in the rips now in a boat, and you'll pretty much have them to yourself.
yeah.
You know,
You'll catch nothing.
nobody fishes. I mean, well, there's fish there, but just nobody does it anymore. It, you know,
So I think it might have been Jim Hutchinson. Maybe it was somebody else, but I had mentioned that nobody fishes the rips, and who I don't recall exactly who it was, but I say, I bet you if we went down there and it was a no, we've tried it. It's not still hopping like it used to.
no, there'll be fish there. I mean, I do have a buddy with a boat down in Cape May, and we were togging one day, and I think it was late November, and he was on his way out togging, but he wanted to check the rips, and he stopped, and he was just throwing paddle tails. I think he had 8 fish
Yeah.
over 50 inches, though. They were all big fish. I mean, it used to be you would go into the Delaware Bay to chunk, and you could start that anytime. Like usually that was the first week of November,
Yeah.
and those fish were every year. They were like clockwork. First week of November it started and went most through to December, and that just vanished.
Right.
Those chunk bass just vanished. Whether it was just a couple years, but it seemed to be like around Sandy that ended. So
Right. And as a matter of fact, up until Sandy, they would invade the backwaters of extreme, southern New Jersey, so Cape May County, and you could chunk the
yeah,
backwaters. So you just find a hole that's 20 feet deep, and you would chunk clam back there typically,
yeah.
um, which is where Fred Chunkin from. That's where he got his thing.
And
But
no bones.
no bones tackle, yeah. And so Fred, he had quite a business of selling those clam bellies in those
Yeah,
big 5 gallon buckets, and we would buy them every year. And man, you're right. Once Sandy hit, I can't buy any back there. Not like we used to. I mean, you used to sit there for hours, and you could only drop one rod, you know,
mhm.
um, because the second you dropped it, you were on. It was a big fish. You'd land it as soon as you bait up again and just drop it. It was like when you had the tuna at the back of the when you're just dropping scallops. As soon as it hits the water, they're coming up and taking it.
Yeah.
But now you can sit there for 5 hours and just get nothing but you know get nothing but dogfish. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think Sandy did a
The
big
strike
number on it.
has changed, and if you haven't adapted with it, then you're not helping yourself to catch more fish. You just go further. My next trip is going to be Maine. Everything I see, everything I read, Maine, everything is extended up north to that part. Fortunately, my wife wants to go to Maine, so it may be
Great
a
place
summer
to go.
trip. Yeah, it might be a summer trip next year up to Maine, and I'll just
Summer.
yeah, yeah, July, August.
I'm thinking. My wife and I are thinking of going up just for like 3 days. Um, we, actually, last year when I was sick, she's like, "We're getting out of here." So she threw me in the car, and we just drove as far into Maine as we could in one day. And we
Yeah,
just got a hotel, and we hung out there for a couple days. And we decided we're going to do that again this year. But
cool.
now I'm going to have the energy to go fishing.
Yeah,
So, and I remember sitting on the beach, and I guess it was August, or no, it was July of last year, and I was thinking, oh my god, this would work. This would this. I mean, it was the picturesque Maine coastline,
hmm
and you could just see the fish. And I talked to a couple fishermen as I was very slowly coming off the beach, and they're like, "Oh yeah," they're like, well, "Get your stuff." I'm like, "Not this trip," but they're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, you should be fishing right now."
yeah. Well, that's it. Before I go and do a trip like that, I'll look into everything. I'll go online and I'll find as much information as I can. Areas that I'll be able to access. I'll even look for, and you go through YouTube and just look for videos of guys catching fish because everybody loves to post their stuff, and I'll see where they're from. I'll look up their profile and see where they're from, and when I
Yep.
find out where they're from, you can basically find out where they fish. It's going to be probably close to home.
Right.
And then you'll start looking in that area, and as you start looking at coastline, where there's public access, and then looking up how the fishing is in different times of year and then I'll just start putting a trip together like that, small steps. Keep looking things up until I dial it in and go, okay, this is where I want to go.
Yeah.
This where am I going to stay? Okay, this is where I'm going to stay. Okay, how am I going to get around? Okay, I can park here when I'm fishing. I leave and I can park here and then go fish. So that's usually how I'll put it together.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you want to do the Chesapeake, you better do that in some of the areas south because you don't have access to most of the coastline.
Yeah.
You have so much coastline along the Chesapeake, and so much of it you
It's
can't
even
get to.
some of the states up, north, Connecticut and Rhode Island. There's so much private waterfront land, and they literally will cut you off from fishing that. The
Yeah,
guys up like they come here and they go, "Wow, you guys have so much access. That's how bad it is." So when they think New Jersey's got a lot of access,
yeah,
that's bad.
yeah, yeah, and that's why people need to be careful, and that's why people get pissed off when you go down for what's that one? What's the one place that everyone was complaining about? Um, Whatever it was near Great Bay, where everyone was going, and Jeffers, and
Jeff.
yeah, Jeffords, and
Great idea.
people were getting in arguments because people were showing up to fish, and it wasn't necessarily that there were too many people fishing. It's that the people showing up were parking in the wrong spots. They were leaving trash, which
Yeah.
meant that that place is going to get cut off. And people just
Yeah.
don't get that because they've never left the area. They don't know, like, you can't go through 99% of Maryland and get to the water. You just can't do it.
Now, that spot, that particular spot you're talking about, is probably 5 or 10 minutes from my house, and it's one of the spots that I used to go. And I could go there every year, like March 1st, and get a couple small fish just to break the
Yeah.
ice, and I might see one or two other guys like the whole time, for weeks.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes about who blew it up and put it all over the internet, but
Well, we all
uh,
know.
yeah, but it destroyed the. There's a guy that lives there. They're parking in his yard. They're grilling. They're having fires out there, and
Yep.
I've moved on to a spot a little further away, and I can still hear them from probably a half mile away. I can hear them yelling.
Yeah.
Usually, I'm like, I'm not going to just fish. I'll go if I have to walk a mile out onto the sod bank. I'll walk a mile out the sod bank,
Yeah.
and that's what I do out there now. I walk,
I
but
can't
it's
do it anymore.
yeah, I'm close. I fell in the rocks the other day, so it's yeah. I feel like I fall all the time now. If I close my eyes in the shower, I'd fall out.
You got to hit the grab handles
Yeah, yeah,
and a chair. You're going to have to get your shower chair. Yeah.
yeah.
The sod banks make me a little nervous now just because I just don't have the stamina that I used to a couple years ago. And it takes a lot when you get stuck. You get 1 foot stuck in an area where you're not sure where you are. And all of a sudden there's,
They feel bottomless. I know. Yeah, some of them,
yeah.
you'll go until your hands catch you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so I did that in Brigantine years ago. Um, I was walking on the sod and I stepped and I went down to my hip. But my problem was it wasn't both feet. It was just like my one leg.
oh wow,
So so that was like, and it was straight. My leg was straight.
wow.
So it's straight below me, but my other leg was on solid ground. So it's like up and like next to my ear. I'm like, I can't bend like this. That sucked. And that was a little, had it been a different situation, that could have been pretty scary, being all alone. Now it was Brigantine. There were people that I could have yelled to for
Yeah.
help, but you don't want to yell for anyone there.
No,
You're like,
no. I was fishing with a guy that he stepped in one of the. I was on the water's edge, and I heard him call my name, and when I turned around, he was gone. And
oh,
the weeds
side
were
bank broke.
2 feet high, and I had to walk back there, and it was just his head and his hands. That was it. I had to pull him out. Yeah, he was completely down in this hole. And the hole was probably only as wide as his body. He just stepped in it perfectly and went right
Yeah.
down.
Bet he smelled good when he got out.
He probably didn't smell good anyway. Huh?
Well, that's the worst thing about the sod banks. Once you fall in them or anything,
Yeah.
you may as well just burn the clothes.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like going to destinations, and I kind of have a bucket list, of things I wanted to accomplish. And like last year, I wanted to get a rooster, and I did a trip to Costa Rica
Yep.
with a good friend, and he booked everything, and it's amazing how we did a 5-day trip. That's it. If we flew there, we rented a car. I drove us around. We drove to where we stayed, had a condo. He had chartered a boat, which is it's a little island, or I mean, it's a little like a beach place with boats on the beach, and you're doing beach launches. And it wasn't any high fancy uh, outfit. These were just guys. These were Costa Rican guys, and we just jumped on their boat. Now, in advance, we had told them that how we wanted to fish. That we wanted to fish light tackle. We wanted to cast, and
Right.
they assured us that they had everything like that. But once we got on the boat, it was all trolling gear.
Uh-huh.
So we were a bit disappointed on the first day. And we were like, "Where's the casting stuff?" Oh no, no, we don't have that. But we were smart enough that we both brought small reel, and we brought $30 telescopic rods
There you
from
go.
it. Yeah. So the next day we were on the same boat, pulled the telescopic rods out, put our little 4,000s, and said, "Take us to where there's fish." And while we were out there, we caught, there was roosters, there was rainbow runners, the biggest false albacore I've ever seen, jacks. Then we went off a little further and we dropped baits and red snappers and, Cabrera.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, while we were dropping, I looked over and I saw a fin on top of the water. And I said to the captain, I go, "What's that?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know. Could be a mahi." He said, "Cast over there." And I had my telescopic rod with a 4,000 reel with 20-pound test and 20-pound braid with a white Yazuri magminnow,
Yeah.
right? So I throw it over there, and I'm cranking it in, and I don't see this little squiggly. It's like a long squiggly line on the surface. I don't know. I'm not from the Caribbean. I might look it, but I'm not. It comes towards me, right at the boat. I'm about to lift the plug out of the water, and I get hit, and a 6-foot sailfish launches so close to me that I could have reached out and touched it, and it's
Oh
got
man.
stuck in its mouth. And this thing tail walked away from me, ripping line. I probably jumped 6 times. And I had this fish on. I got video of it. Me turning to my buddy, going, "There's no effing way I'm getting this in." And he goes, "Well, if you're going to get it, that's a good rod to get it on." And I'm like, "Are you out? It's a telescopic rod." But I fought this thing probably for 20 minutes to a half an hour. It probably launched out of the water a dozen times before eventually that my 20-pound leader must have been stuck on the bill. And we
Right.
chased, we tried to chase it, and it rubbed and broke off. And I reeled up, I put the rod down, and I sat down. And the captain said, "Aren't you going to tie back up?" And I go, "Nope, I'm done, because
You're
it ain't
done.
going to get any better." It said, "It's
Yeah.
not going to get any better than that. That was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life." I said, "I'm done. You can take me in now."
Could you
So
imagine it? So did you save the rod?
yeah, we still have the rods. Yeah, yeah.
Are you going to use it
Anybody?
again?
No. No,
Yeah.
no. Now I actually bought a travel tube,
Okay.
hard tube that I can carry rods with and put it in, as luggage. Actually fly it with me. That's the way I'll do it from now on, because I don't want to get stuck again without quality stuff. Not
Right.
saying
Yeah.
the rod held up beautifully. If you see some of the pictures, the bend in the rod was fantastic, and it actually felt pretty good for a $30 telescopic rod. It was, I mean, I was happy. I was happy that we had rods.
Right. But
We
if you had a better rod, you might have landed it.
I probably
Maybe.
not, and I think
No,
just with the 20-pound fluoro, you know, sure the
that's
thing
true.
directions. It went one way, it went under, and then it danced away, and then it came under the boat, and then danced the other. Then came to the surface and jumped again. Then came under the boat and went off the bow of the boat. And I kind of was running around the boat, and I got up there, and this thing was tail walking away from me still, and it must have been at some point I
Oh yeah.
wrapped that. And I mean, when you pulled it in, I don't even know how I had it on that long. It
Just a
looked
bunch
like
of strings.
the whole leader was just shredded. It looked like it had hair growing off it. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, that was 20-pound tested. It held up that long." But it was, that's a memory, that, we basically flew back like the next day. But it was just, if you're thinking of doing a trip like that, like I know guys, a lot of guys on their bucket list, roosters and stuff like that, man. You do a trip to Costa Rica. It's not expensive. You go, you fly into San Jose. You go, you can rent a car. You have it all planned out. You take a taxi, and it's cheap. There you take a taxi to your rental car to your place, and then you can just drive around and explore. You got to be careful where you're exploring over there,
Right.
but you know. At nighttime, you got to be careful where you're at. But it's just like trips like that are amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that again. And
You
maybe
should
some.
do it again. Get
Uh,
Century to make you a real travel rod.
you hear that, Mike?
Get on it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if he had a telescopic Century rod? He could have had a great advertisement.
They need travel rods. I mean, the case that I have, I bought this. It's a Plano case. I think it extends to 96 inches. So
Wow.
most of the rods that are over 8 foot are going to be two-piece anyway. So I can fit I can probably fit a surf rod in there and a boat rod in there, and then just pack the reels with my luggage, which is what we did. We packed plugs and reels in our luggage.
Yeah. Yeah. I travel when I travel by plane, I have one of those things, but I only use 2-piece rods then, just so that I don't have to check a overly long.
Yeah.
package, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm talking Florida, North Carolina typically, so I can get away with a 7 foot, 7'6" light
Yeah.
rod. I just typically bring something that I don't mind breaking because I just don't trust the airline. You know,
Yeah.
you have to
Now,
check them.
yeah. Well, this is something I can check in,
Yeah,
and it locks, and it seems pretty durable. I think Plano makes them.
yeah. I Plano makes some good ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I have. It's sitting. I opened it yesterday and I realized I had a rod in there from 4 years ago. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's where it is. Took
Yeah.
it to Florida.
Yeah.
Totally forgot. Um, so we're getting close to the end here. I do want to know. So you're definitely going to Cuddy Hunk next year.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're going to be doing an advanced fishing. We're going to, as a team, we have a team of guys. We're all going to go there as a team next year, which will be neat. Fishing with guys, guys that on our advanced fishing team.
Yeah, yeah. So where would you go if you weren't going to Cuddy Hunk and you had to go alone?
Doing the solo trip. If I was just going to go like solo, I haven't been to Montauk in years. I would probably do something like
Do
that.
that again.
Yeah, yeah. Just to go, just because I haven't seen it in so long. I wouldn't mind doing that. Or even like I've never fished Block Island. I'd love to just check out Block Island.
Yeah, I've never done Block Island. That's definitely on my list. Montauk is on there.
Yeah,
I think I feel like I know every rock in Montauk, and I've never been there just because I've
yeah,
seen so many pictures and studied so many pictures. And there are certain rocks that I want to stand on someday.
yeah. You want to go there and you want to stand at the lighthouse and you'll be able
Yep.
to point them all out. You'll know where Weakfish Rock is just from the stories you heard, and you'll know where
Right.
Falls Bar, North Bar, and Shagwong. It's all pretty simple. Camp Hero and Ditch Plains, all those spots. You know, you go deep into the on the south side. It's really neat. There's more to it than you think than just the lighthouse. There's more
Right.
to it.
Yeah. So I was told that the lighthouse is where you start, but that's not where the good fishermen end.
Yeah, that sounds like a great advice.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
when you go there, you start there. Like
Yeah,
your first time, you have to start there,
yeah.
but then you need to branch
Branching.
out to
Yes.
find the better spot. Not necessarily better, but the cooler spots.
I fished it one night. I was fishing it with a couple buddies one night. And we were standing on False Bar, and there was three. It was three of us, and there was a couple of guys to my left, and they were obvious like locals, like they fished it a lot, and they were beating the hell out of fish every cast. They wouldn't turn their lights on their fish because they knew we weren't catching fish.
Yeah.
Finally, one of them hooked a fish, and he couldn't get it unhooked. It was dark. It was a dark night, so I slid over. As soon as he turned that light on, I saw a white super strike needle. And I went, white super strike needle. I got one, put it on, and I slid down my buddy, and I went white super strike needle, and he went white super strike needle, and instantly we started catching fish. It was amazing. Yeah, yeah. I
It's
couldn't.
local knowledge.
We were throwing needles, but we weren't throwing white needles, and that made the difference that night. It was like everything was white needles.
That's why you always have to listen to locals.
Yeah,
They know.
yeah. That's why I love, and like even the first time we went to the canal, I got there and I'd never fished it before. There was an older guy in the cabin next to me. And I walked over before we even started fishing and just talked to him. And, he was a local guy and he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, you're going to go here, go to Pult 246 in the morning. And he hands me a top water plug, hands me an after hours junior blip pencil popper. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And I went there the next morning and caught my first few canal fish, and he wasn't there. And when I
No.
went back, hey, I got fish. I go, where were you? And he goes, oh, I was somewhere else.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in the real spot. I gave you the rookie spot.
Oh yeah, I caught fish.
Yeah, that's great. That's
He'll,
great. Yeah,
he'll
I
help,
haven't been to the canal either.
he'll help you, but he'll help you to a point. He's not going to
Yeah.
give you his best, but he's going to give you something that helps.
You got to earn that. If you see him the next year, then maybe he'll give you the next spot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a season that people, a lot of people are traveling. I got a few messages like, oh, I'm not going to be there for the live version of this because I'm traveling, and nobody wants to watch the Fat Dad Fishing Show with their family on the couch at the beach house. So totally
Yeah.
get it.
You're going away with the family, and you want to fish and you're going to be by the water. I did it this year. My wife wanted to go to Key West, and I said, "Well, I've never caught a tarpon.
Yeah.
I've only tried, I think maybe once or twice." I said, "I'm going to book a tarpon charter," and I did. I booked a tarpon charter, and I could have booked it for 4, 6, or 8 hours, so I went 8 hours to make sure I got it done.
Yeah.
And of course, it didn't get done. It
I was
did. We
gonna say,
fished
I
it.
missed that.
Yeah, I did not get a tarpon. So these aren't all successful trips. Everywhere you go, it's not going to always be successful. It doesn't mean that I won't try again, and it doesn't mean that it's the captain's fault. It wasn't. The wind wasn't right. Things just you may plan. You can be the best planner in the world. You plan one of these trips, and you're still going to be you know uh, hoping that the weather cooperates, whether it's wind direction or the storms or anything. You just got
Yeah.
to cross your fingers with that, especially when you're doing like quick 3, 4 day trips. You're at the mercy of the weather all the time, but that doesn't mean that you don't plan it.
Right. Right. Well, I hope I one thing that I've gotten a lot of requests for is in the off season. So off season for this show, George, for you is the start of your striper season. So once we get into November, a bunch of people have said that they would like to see people come on and talk about their bucket list trips that they did this year
Hmm.
so that they can kind of, because they're not hitting the water. Most people aren't out every day. Maybe they get out once a month, whereas they're out once a week now in the
Hmm.
winter or in the fall, winter, and spring. And they're like, this would just be a good way to kind of get ideas of what they could do and just kind of hear about some cool things that people did. So, um, yeah, I'm hoping that we'll go through some of the results of these trips and people will hear. You're going to hear a lot of things, like that redfish trip that we took. That was not productive when we were on the charter. It wasn't the dude's fault. I mean, we booked over 100 miles on that boat in that day.
You see, and I thought it was very productive because I learned a lot that day just sitting talking to the captain and the mate. And I learned a lot, and
Yeah.
I felt confident that I could go down there with a boat and do exactly what they did. I knew where they launched. I knew where to go. I knew everything about it.
Yeah.
From one trip.
I
I
was
was notes. I was
so did I.
yeah.
I knew exactly what to look for on the fish finder. I saw exactly what they were doing, and I have a couple ideas of how I would do it better.
And then I went earlier this year. I went down and fished with Gio in May, and he's awesome. Gio's awesome. He was our mate. Now he's a captain. He runs his
Yep.
own boat, and they fish it completely different in May than they did in July. So I got to see that aspect of it. So every time you do that, and I only caught one bull, one big red, and that's all I went there for. Though that's what I went
Right.
there for. I went there to catch one. But I learned a ton. I learned so much just from that trip that it was worth all the time and effort that I put into it.
Oh, it was. And they, during all that time that we were searching, because a lot of this for this trip was searching. So it was
That's
just driving and
and
looking.
that's what it always is. I think.
And looking meant not out to the side. You were looking at the fish finder.
Yeah.
It was only the electronics. So
No
everyone was
blind
glued to that.
casting. There's no blind casting. There's no fishing structure. You're basically just waiting until they say, there they are, throw it 2 o'clock.
Yep.
There they are. They're straight off the bow. If
Yep.
you're casting while he's looking, they're going to get very angry at you. They,
Yes. Yes.
they don't want you doing that.
But they spent that time talking about what, how the approach is, what tackle to use, so
Mhm.
as soon as the first turn that we did, because when they got it, you turn the boat and then they tell you where to cast.
Mhm.
I think after the first one was pretty good, but after that it was like every single person was right on point. Everyone was hitting right where they
Mhm.
said to go from whatever quarter of the
Mhm.
boat they were standing on.
Yep.
And people, we got practice real quick. We didn't get to hook anything. I think somebody had one bite the whole day. But I did learn a lot.
Yeah, it happens very quick, though. I mean, we're all
Fast.
casting. Like when I went with them in May, it was like, you see them, they may not eat. Then you find them again, and then boom, there was 4 of us on the boat, 3 of us hooked up. It's like fire drill. You're all hooked up to 20 to 40 pound red drum. Uh,
How'd you like the fight?
oh my god, absolutely insane. I think I, 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 I told somebody, I said, a striper of that size, I would have had in the boat in half the amount of time
Yeah.
because when I got into the boat, it went all the way back down to the bottom in like 30 feet of water, and the fight started over again. But this
Yeah.
time it was angry. The second
Right.
time it was angry. The first time it came, it was like a striper, like a big 40-pound striper. But then it went down, and then the fight started over again, and it was harder. So
Yeah, it's almost like they have a little shark in them. You know how the sharks get when you get them up close, and then they just make that long run again, and it just peel in line. It's almost
yeah,
like that.
it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. That one fish, I was just like, okay. That was another situation where I could sit down and go, okay, I did what I wanted to do. You guys fish. I'll be sitting here relaxing. I'm done.
And that is the mark of a good day when you can just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
There was the guy that caught that 23-pound tog or whatever it was off his kayak. And after he caught it, he was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I got plenty of hours left, but I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and show the pictures to everyone.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you go out there for certain things. I go out there. You go out there to enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the outside and everything. But when I get there's that one that you're looking for, and when you hit it, I don't want to ruin it by, I could sit there and cast 500 more times and not get another touch, and that's just going to take away from that moment for me. I just want to end on that note. Okay, that's it. Today's top of the mountain, and I'm done. That's it.
Yeah. You don't want to be like Steve Carlton pitching too many years after your prime. Once you get what you need, you're done.
Yeah, 2 hours after that point, you could have fished without a touch, and you start driving home and you go, God, I could have quit 2 hours ago. I would have had a smile on my face and I would already had food in my stomach,
Mm-hmm.
But we just try to push it, now I'm at that point now, it's fish smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. It's good connecting with you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And guys, listen, we'll be back next week. Man, it's tough getting people with vacations. We got a bunch of guys that are ready to come on. They're just trying to figure out what's going to work with their schedules. Some are captains, so obviously it's difficult for them to plan well in advance because they don't know when their charters are going to be, and they don't know if they're going to have to be on the water until 7:00. So I'm working on that. We'll announce who the next guest is towards the end of this week as soon as I can get it finalized. But everyone, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. George, thank you again. Hopefully we'll be catching each other on the water. And with that said, everyone, get out there, get on the water, get some tight lines.